Hello my friends, welcome back to another tutorial. I hope you're all keeping very well out there. I hope you're all painting fantastic paintings and artwork alike. So this week on the channel, a still life perhaps, something different. I've done a lot of landscapes in the past couple of weeks and I would like just to try something a little different. Just to keep the mind fresh, I suppose. I'm getting old and I want to keep my mind fresh. So I thought I'd just try something different, a nice little still life. I did one on my Patreon channel two weeks ago, I think it was 2 weeks ago. Some beautiful kind of lemons with a vase and all that kind of stuff, and it was real fun. I got a lot of good feedback from it, so I thought for my channel here on YouTube, I would paint a nice still life for you. You may or may not like this type of painting, but nonetheless, I think it's a very good idea to try something outside of your regular type of painting, something different. I know, I don't like painting, say, flowers, for instance, because I feel I'm not very good at painting flowers, but still, I like to try them from time to time, and it's quite refreshing when you try it and it works out. Now, sometimes it may not work out, but you won't know until you try. I think trying a still life like this, it's very good for the mind. It just keeps you fresh, painting-wise. It keeps you engaged and it keeps you, you're learning new things, new little techniques, and you would be very surprised at the results. It may look complicated, but overall, it can be quite a simple subject. Now, what I'm going to paint for you today is a very dark background, okay? Very dark, blacky brown, kind of a warm background. There's an orange sitting on a piece of wood, and the orange is kind of half peeled, and the peel is kind of curling down, hanging over the edge of the wood. I think it's going to make a very nice tutorial because the colours are just so eye-catching. You have the bright orange in the middle of a dark background. It's very eye-catching, and we can take our time then and do some little details as well. So I'm not going to say this will be a photorealism type of painting, but I want to make it so it does look somewhat realistic, just to a certain extent. I don't want to go over the top with realism, but a nice impression of the orange with the peel falling down, but then a nice few little details at the end, just to make it really kind of jump from the canvas, so to speak. So I think you're really going to enjoy this. The colours are very warm and very inviting and very eye-catching, so you should try painting something like this. Just try to follow me along and, take your time. I will be trying to kind of simplify it, but I may go into a lot of detail here and there, just on certain parts of the orange, for instance. But look, let's just try it and have some fun along the way. It's just a very laid-back, calm atmosphere in my studio. I feel like you're sitting here with me and we're all painting together. It's a lovely feeling. So look, let's paint this lovely little still life. And do try it. But let me know what you think, and do subscribe to the channel, because, we're getting bigger and bigger as the weeks and months go on. It's growing slowly, albeit slowly. So I'm delighted to be able to help you along with your endeavour in painting. Thank you so much for your support, and thank you to my patrons as well. I do appreciate it. Let's go. Grab your paint brushes and your bit of canvas, and let's just have a bit of fun with this. I'll be right back. Okay everyone, here is my canvas and palette. I did a very quick sketch. Now I'm using a 16 by 20 canvas. I did a very quick sketch, couple of pencil lines, little circle, and just an impression of that peel coming down. There's a reference photograph. Now I think that's very eye-catching. I think it will make a lovely subject. Now I might have to make it slightly bigger to fill up the canvas a bit more, but I have a general sketch anyway, which will do just fine. So what I'm going to do is tell you what colours I am using. I have titanium white, naples yellow, cadmium red, cadmium yellow, lamp black, a little magenta violet. I don't think I'll need it, but just in case. A little bit of phaylo blue, burnt sienna and burnt umber. A few colours, a few nice warm colours. So look, I have some turpentine with linseed oil, and I primed my canvas once, and I rubbed it lightly with some sandpaper just to give it a nice soft, smooth finish. So that's it. I suppose we could just start painting really. And the background is just very dark. It's very, very black, isn't it? But I might add a little hint of colour into the background, just to kind of add something to it. Let's start. I'll dampen my brush, make sure that's nice and wet, and I'm going to start mixing some dark colours. Let's get some burnt umber, and let's get some of that magenta as well. I think I'll start with this colour and add darks to it. So I'm going for a very warm, kind of a pinky kind of a brown colour. Now that's a very wet colour, you see that? This basically now is just an underpainting that I'm doing here. You could just, I suppose what I could have done, really, thinking about it now, and I should have done this, I could have just tinted the canvas a dark, rich brown or something like that beforehand to save me this trouble. That's something that we should maybe do as well in a tutorial, tinting a canvas, but it's the very same thing. It just saves you a bit of work, that's all. But I could have tinted my canvas. There's just something I like about working on a white canvas. For me, it just allows me to see the colours much easier, I suppose. For me, that's what it does. I do enjoy sometimes working on a tinted canvas, but bear in mind, when you're using a tinted canvas, when you start painting, the colours are different. So you need to allow for the change in colour. You need to allow for the background colour to show through on a tinted canvas. So it can be tricky for novices and amateurs and beginners and stuff like that. You know, you really have to practice when you're doing a tinted canvas. It does take quite a bit of time to get used to using a tinted canvas. I'm just going to fill all of this in now with some nice rich, let's go into some black. Come on, let's get some black out here and some cadmium red. I don't like using pure black on its own. I always like to add something to it. Maybe, you know, just a little bit of warmth or something. I think it just, black on its own is a very cold, dull colour. I think when you add something to it, any colour at all, it picks up the black a bit more, brightens it up a bit more, it makes it a bit more interesting. So I just go along now and fill all of this in, get that nice and dark. Again, I'm just adding little touches of thinner as well as I go along here. So black, cadmium red again, I'm getting a slightly thicker colour now. So I'm putting a thicker colour on over a thin colour. And you just keep going until you have the colour you want. Isn't that right? You just keep going and keep softening it. And eventually you will arrive at the colour that you feel is right for you and for your painting. Just persevere. A lot of people, they try and go right on with thick colour first, and it's very difficult to control when that happens. I'm going to move on down to the bottom half of this canvas. I will just leave all of this. It just saves me having to, you know, try and put colour back over it again and try and brighten it up. So I'm just going to leave the centre part, and I might try and leave maybe some of this as well if I can, only because it'll be difficult then to try and sketch this back in afterwards and find my lines. So I'll just leave a bit of it. Doesn't have to be perfect at all. So a nice thin colour, plenty of turpentine in this. Black, red, that gives you a nice rich dark kind of a brown, doesn't it? Let's just fill all of this in here, all right across. I never pay too much particular attention to backgrounds like this when I'm painting them. I just, you know, put lots of colour on and get it filled in. I'll go back to burnt umber now and a bit of black and get it nice and dark down here. I do want to start bringing in some purples into this as well, purples and violets, that kind of colour here and there. I think it just will really add to the painting. I think it will anyway. So I have a pretty dark background there now. It's like a dark brown, isn't it? I'm going to start taking some blues and purples into this. I must just get myself some magenta. So my next job is I'm going to mix some phthalo blue with some magenta. Same brush, not cleaned. Let's take phthalo blue, lots of it, and lots of magenta. So a nice pinky purple, okay? Lots of magenta in this. And what happens now is, you see that will mix in. Let's pick a point to blend this in. Let's go here. Let's get this nice pinky purple. It's mixing with the brown now, and that's a good thing. That's what we want. And from where you're sitting, it may just look like a dark blacky colour. But once it's finished, you will notice all of these little different shades in the painting. It really will add to the painting, I feel. A little bit up here. Let's get some nice. Let's get some more magenta perhaps. We could just pop some magenta on its own, look, with some cadmium red up there. Just make this background just slightly different shades, I think. See, I'm just mixing it in all very randomly. Again, down here, a little bit of magenta, cadmium red, and then I'm going to just go into some blue, add a bit of blue down in this corner, phthalo blue, and I'm mixing all of this now on the canvas, okay? I'll get some phthalo blue with magenta and go along here. I much rather do something like this in the background than just having a matte black colour. I think it's just a bit more fun. I think it adds a bit more to it. And I can see there's a bit of a shine on the canvas up there. That's just from my lights. So that is really just a kind of a dark brown up there. Let's just soften all of this together. Let's try and just move away and get some of those brush strokes off the canvas. Just a little bit, not too much. There we go. Nice and soft. Just lose some of those brush marks. Soften it together. And you can do pretty much any kind of a background you like on this. I think that's quite nice now. There's a bit of, you know, a variation of darks going on in there. So I'll move on and do this lovely timber. We have a beautiful bright section in the middle of that timber, don't we? I will stick with the same brush. I'm going to go into some burnt sienna and a bit of burnt umber, okay? Burnt sienna, burnt umber. Let me take a look. Okay, I'll use that first. It's a pretty thin colour. Let's just get that painted in first with that colour. Again, nice and thin. I'm going right over my pencil marks. Look, you can go right over the centre piece if you want. It's completely up to yourself. And again, paint that right across all the way, look. Okay, there we go. It's slightly higher on one side, isn't it? But that's fine. I'll take some burnt umber and just up on top, start with some burnt umber, bring it across like so. As it goes out, it gets darker, doesn't it? So I'm just going to start picking up some black with some burnt sienna and a little cadmium red perhaps. I just want to get nice thick colour, and I want to just kind of bring that in from the sides and leave it disappear. Then look, just kind of flick it in. And leave it disappear. And that's a nice gradient out there, isn't it? Let's try that again. There we go. Okay. Do the same up top. Then I'm going to go into some black. On its own, I think, just a bit of black. And bring some black in as well. Leave it just kind of softening. At the same time, I'm picking out the edge of the bottom piece of this, you see what I mean? And leave it soften across. Let's do the same over here. It's almost the thickness of the brush actually, so that's a good thing. So I know, there we go. That's, you know, that's all right. I'm happy enough with that. I'm just going to make sure I have all my lines the same height, near enough. Now the next thing I'm going to do is just, again, give that a quick wipe. Go right into some black. Nice thick black, and I want to just define the end of this. So I'm going to go along with some black. And define the end of that. Soften it out. Soften it down into that colour underneath. And that gives you a nice, kind of, more of a solid line, doesn't it? I could do the same on top as well if I want. You don't have to. I think I will. Soften it away. Like so. Now I will just soften that back up with my blender brush. So there's no sudden kind of lines going across. Let's just soften it, top and bottom. Now you can, as I said earlier, you can by all means tint your canvas and you can get these lines a little bit crisper then, you see. Now I'm going to switch brushes. I am going to go for, let me find a nice brush here now just to do this. A nice simple medium flat brush, okay? And what I want to do, let me just fix the exposure on my camera now because it's slightly bright, the exposure, isn't it? There, I think that's better. It's probably the settings on the camera that are slightly wrong, but it's okay, it's not bad. I'm going to just start lightening in the middle here. I'm going to take some Naples yellow and a little burnt sienna. And I'm just going to start, let's just start up here, look. And then leave that disappear off. It probably needs to be a bit warmer than that, doesn't it? I'll try a bit of cadmium red in the mix. Cadmium red with burnt sienna. I want to keep it warm. I literally want to go from the middle outwards and lighten it, okay? Just flick it outwards, clean your brush, and go again. Okay. That's not bad. We could maybe take some burnt sienna and just get some burnt sienna and start maybe a bit of lemon or Naples yellow as well. Burnt sienna, Naples yellow, and even in the middle of the bottom section, just start dragging a bit of that out as well. Maybe just even kind of lightening it a little bit here and there. And I want to create kind of, as well, I want to create the effect of the wood. I don't want to leave it just flat like this. So let me just get some of that sienna again and a touch of Naples yellow, maybe a touch of cadmium yellow. And I just want to kind of dab it along here and there, look. I just want to kind of make it a little more random, okay? Just kind of dabbing things like this, dabbing it together. You could even use a palette knife as well on bits of this if you wanted. But I think what I'll do, I'm going to get a small round brush, okay? let's find a nice small little brush, small pointy brush. I'm just going to take some burnt sienna, and let's take a bit of black. Now what I will do is just with this thick colour on its own, I'm just going to kind of create little dark spots on this wood, just to give the impression of the grain of the wood, okay? That sort of thing, especially just along the ridge where it turns. Just going to give a bit of a more of an impression of it being almost a sharp corner, if you understand what I mean. Just along here and there, look, just dab, 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 kind of scrape the brush along. It's just a very random sort of a technique, just to add the suggestion of a bit of grain in the wood or something like that. Let's go up top. Again, we'll take some burnt sienna with some black. We'll do the same up here. Look, let's just add a couple of darks in here and there, suggesting maybe the grain of the timber as well. So you could just do that by putting a few lines across as well. Here and there. And then as it goes out, I'm just going to start putting more black into it, just to give it a rough feeling. That's all it is, really. That's all it is. Then I'll just really sharpen the underneath with some black. I just want to really define the bottom edge with some black, that's all. And yeah, that's all right. Now I'll do the same with some Naples yellow. Maybe just Naples yellow on its own even. We could just kind of come along and just add little suggestions of a lightness just along the center. Okay, just little dots of colour, little wiggles of colour, that kind of thing. And maybe we could come down here and add a bit of light just to the centre of this section. And you can kind of soften all this then with a blender brush and stuff like that if you wanted to. You don't have to, but if you want, you can. You could even, I'm just going to take a flat brush and just kind of dab very gently over some of them. Give them a bit of texture just to soften them back in again, just to, you know, make it that very rough sort of random effect. Okay, there we go. Soften them across very gently. So we're pretty much finished, I would say, our timber effect. You could, by all means, now you could warm it or you could add to it. I think I might add a little richer colour to it with a palette knife. I'm going to take some burnt sienna with some red. It's just me. You might think it looks okay. You might think it needs a bit more light or dark, but I think I might just want to add a little more to it just with a palette knife. I just think giving it more of a texture with the palette knife and a bit of cadmium yellow even, just to warm that shade a bit, just a bit more, that's all. And of course you don't really have to do this, you could just leave it as it is, it's perfectly fine. I just think a little bit of this and that with a palette knife would help. Now I'm going to put in the shadow. There's a shadow, a lovely dark shadow in there. get some cadmium red with some black. I'm just going to imagine where the line is coming now, and shadow just kind of slips out like that, doesn't it? I'm just going to do it like this, very, very loosely first. I can refine it then later on, but I just thought I would get the shadow in now. That's all. And leave it just soften outwards into that paint. There we go. So at least I know now the shadow is pretty much in. And that is our background pretty much done, my friends. And the wood is pretty much done. You could add a bit more to the wood now if you wanted to. It's completely up to yourself. I think what I'll do next now is take a bit of tissue and just maybe get some thinners and just get the form of my orange again. Let's just take the paint off of that canvas again and just get the form of that canvas, or that orange in there. Let's just get that right. Let's get some of this paint off. You see what I mean? Now, I was saying earlier, I'm not sure if it's too small. I think it may be a bit small. I think I might make it that bit bigger. I think it might look better if it was a bit bigger on the canvas, just to fill the canvas a bit more, really. That's all it is. Because I'm just not 100% sure with the size. It's always difficult to know the size of something, because when it's finished, I may say to myself, you know, it looks a bit too small for the rest of the painting. So when you're finished, it's difficult to kind of make it bigger without going at everything else. So that's why sometimes I like to just make sure at this stage that it is where I want it to be. We have a bit kind of coming over like this, don't we? Let's just do that. Just to get some of the paint off at least. Make life a little bit easier for us, won't it? And just keep turning your tissue till you have the way you want. A little bit thicker just down here, look. Like that. At least I know I have most of the outline there for me. Okay? And this point, feather down here. Let's just go something like that. So what do you think of that? Now that's probably all right, isn't it? At least now we have a bit of a white canvas to work on. So let me get my brushes ready. We are 25 minutes in. I think I'll call this part one finished, my friends. What do you think? I could probably keep painting and get this done in an hour, but I think just for part one, I think that's enough just to give you a taste and just maybe let you try the background first. So I think so, yes. What do you think about that, my friends? Let me just turn the camera. Yes, what do you think? I call it part one finished. I don't want to put too much pressure on you, and I don't want to have to feel like I'm rushing towards the end if I keep painting and painting constantly now from here on. I don't want to feel like I have to rush towards the end to get it finished, because it uses a lot of megabytes and a lot of power. So I'll just recharge my camera fully again. We'll go on to part two and we can then take our time with the orange and the peel and all of that without having to rush along. So I'll see you right back here with part two momentarily. Don't worry. Thank you very much.